Good evening. This is John Warren, publisher of the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint newspaper, coming to you with our program From the Desk of the Editor. We do this weekly to try and stimulate an exchange and dialogue with our open mic and often with invited guests to hear what you, our community, thinks, because the slogan with the Voice and Viewpoint is, number one, a people without a voice cannot be heard, and we can only be the voice if we hear from you. So as I continue to tell you each week that the Voice and Viewpoint, now in its 65th year, covers 89 zip codes, 17 cities, and unincorporated areas of San Diego County. Available online, you may use our app that can be downloaded in the Google or Apple Store. We are over-the-counter retail outlets, newsstands, available by subscriptions. Copies of our paper are donated to food distribution points in our community, as well as to most of our churches each weekend, so that we can keep our entire community informed. So against that backdrop, this is a continued extension of that effort of outreach, and I'm glad to be here to share this mic with Dr. Leonard Thompson III, our partner in media.
Well, good morning, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and good evening. For those, I'm right either way, Dr. Warren, because we're heard in so many different time frames and time zones.
Yes.
That we are good morning some places around the world, and some things we're good evening, and some that good afternoon. And so I want to say to you all, hello to you all. Thank you all for joining in from the Desk of the Editor. We there's so much going on around the world, and we're just going to go and do some hot topics tonight, and let you guys know that you all can call in if you want to, or you can come on Facebook and type in the feed, and we will answer any questions that you might have for us. The call-in number is 858-251-6111. Again, 858-251-6111. And we are here every week having real conversations about real issues that are not just impacting our local, but national and international. So let's start off with international news, Dr. Warren. Israel, Gaza, always mess it up. Hamas.
Yes.
Death, U.S. hostages, and support.
Well, there's a whole lot to be said about this. This is an ongoing struggle. Hamas is the enemy of Israel. They have sworn that they would exterminate the Israeli people and move them from the face of the earth. This surprise attack that took place over the weekend was reminiscent of 1973 and 67, and it comes at a time of tremendous internal struggle in Israel with the Knesset and the Prime Minister Netanyahu, who is trying very hard to amend the Constitution to limit the powers of the Supreme Court, which in effect would be a death blow to democracy, because Israel then would no longer have checks and balances with its legislative entity. The people were so upset about this that they've been polarized, and they have risen up against it. And part of that was a manifestation of the military, which is so key because everyone in the nation of Israel is trained in terms of the military. Men, women, children, shelters, they live in a state of perpetual war readiness at all times, even more so than we do here. They got shelters, and everyone's got gas masks, and they have the Iron Dome, which is a system America has installed with Israel that repels the rockets that are launched toward residential communities. And the dome is set up so that it works automatically. Mm-hmm. It doesn't even have to be manually operated. So we have all of this going on in Israel. And then we had a scenario where Hamas broke through, and they did something they've never done before. They attacked by air, land, and sea. They used mechanized gliders to come in. They hit in the southern part of the country. They went into communities, house to house, shooting, killing people. Now they're saying that they beheaded children and killed parents, and there was rape and pillage. They went into a festival that was going on and slaughtered over 200 some people. Over 1,200 Israelis have died in the midst of this conflict. Israel has declared a formal state of war. They have massed some, called up over 300,000 reservists that are now are prepared to invade Gaza, and Gaza is a strip of land twice the size of Washington, D.C., about 25 miles with over 2 million people living in it. And these people are going to be the victims. They're Palestinians. And so what we have is, because of a terrorist minority and what they did in the nation, there's about to be all kinds of death and destruction rain down on this community. In the midst of this time, unlike the past, Hamas took prisoners. So obviously this was well planned and well executed. And while Hamas is continuing the shelling and the fighting in the southern part of Israel near the Gaza Strip, in the northern section of Israel, coming over the border from Lebanon, we have Hezbollah, which is another guerrilla companion entity that has sworn the same destruction. And they have really highly trained, like Navy SEALs and Delta Force units that the Israeli armies is going to be up against. Security didn't get this. Intelligence didn't catch what was happening. And Mossad, which is the Israeli counterpart to the CIA, they missed it. The CIA, all of these things happened. So I know I'm giving a lot of information. You've probably already seen all this. The big concern right now is in the retaliation in a former state of war. Israel has indicated that it's going to end this problem once and for all. President Biden today was calling upon Prime Minister Netanyahu, and what they've done there is they have come together, even though they have a political government conflict. Those elements have come together as one unit of government to fight this national crisis. And so my editorial this week gives the following title, that the Israeli-Hamas war is a lesson for America. And it should be both a lesson and a warning, because even in the midst of this, our closest ally, we can't even get a resolution because our House, which is the second part of our three-part system of government, is incapacitated because they can't decide on who's going to be the leader.
Yeah.
And so if we could have 9/11 take place at a time that we were functioning, then now that we are so discombobulated, as I point out, our enemies could come together and mount attacks on us. We're already being attacked from within. And you see that in all of these cities where there are Jewish communities, the FBI, the law enforcement, they're all stepping up security because they don't know if there's sleeper guerrilla units in this country that are going to try to kill members of the Jewish community, since this thing is so well planned. I must say that Hamas knows that they can't win in terms of the war, but their end goal is to hold out long enough to try and attract other Arab countries coming in with them. We have accusations now that since we unfroze $6 million of Iranian money, saying it was for humanitarian relief, Republicans are saying that money is responsible, even though it hasn't been released, for them being going forward. We know that Hamas is getting weapons, artillery, and stuff from Iran. It has been for years. Now Lebanon is coming into the picture with the guerrillas even firing rockets from Lebanon over into Israel.
Yeah.
So we have a big scenario going on here. We've lost 22 Americans and more expected to be found dead. There's a threat from Hamas that they will behead hostages for every incidence of the killing of civilian Palestinians. And then here in America, let it be known that everybody in America is not pro-Israel. There is a very strong Palestinian arm. There's a strong feeling among many people that the Palestinians have been driven to this point by Israel based on the way that they have been treated. The Gaza Strip is considered the world's largest open prison with a number of people packed like sardines. And so now Israel has cut off food, electricity, water, all of those things to these people. And as they bomb the place and you look at the images, it's just like after World War II.
Yeah.
So that's in a nutshell. And meanwhile, we're ignoring all of the signs and wonders. We got enemies here. We got North Korea. We got China. We got Russia, even though they are fighting in Ukraine.
We also have Donald Trump.
And we have Donald Trump as the greatest internal enemy in the midst of all of this that people are bent on supporting in spite of what's taking place.
Yeah.
So that's, that took about 11 minutes, but
I want to say, and the reason why I want to say that is because you have Donald Trump now stating that if he was president, that none of this would be happening. Ukraine would not have had to go to the war. That nothing would have happened to Israel. This is the same man that is basically saying that we're closer now to World War III than ever before. And the question comes in: what could you have done differently, Donald Trump? Because everything that you have done in office has always been divisive. It's always been self-serving. And again, in the midst of global chaos, in the midst of all of this tyranny, and in the midst of can't having a Speaker of the House, your party can't get their Speaker of the House, you still are in your criticizing mode, but you created the atmosphere.
What we need to understand, as most people do, that Donald Trump is insane. If he was anybody else, he would be in one of those jackets with the arms in the in the back. And the people who are supporting him understand this, but the racism is so deep, and the desire to start a war, which they are now saying on all of those right-wing media networks and everything, that they don't really care. I mean, these are the same people who tried to shut the government down. These are the same people who are holding up military appointments and arms and supplies and hurting families of military people. They don't care. And these are the signs that history has taught us that every great civilization, over 21, have collapsed from within.
Yeah.
And it's this kind of conduct that's doing it, unfortunately.
And military people always say when the economy gets bad or economy is taking a hard hit, the quickest way to get the economy back in order is to go to war, because you use so many of your resources that you're consistently rebuilding and restocking and resharing. And so some people feel like this is a strategic plan by quote unquote powers to be to help replenish and restock the country and literally help us regain, some good standing, but you can't restock lives.
Well, it is deeper than that, Dr. Thompson, and I don't have time to go into it. But this whole thing goes back to one family, the Rothschilds, and it goes back some 300 years. And history shows that every major war in the world, some extension of that family has been involved in terms of the powers that control and the wealth. So that's another whole issue. But our big concern right now, we have some issues here. I want to be sure that African Americans are not on timeout with this, because there's going to be a residual effect for all of us. The economy is slowing down. No matter how many people, like the president mentioned last week, 300,000 jobs. Well, the rest of us already had jobs, so that's not helping. Gas is up, food is up, everything is up. Another wave is expected with COVID, and there's no movement to put the supplies back in place where they should be. And so we're in a very perplexing situation, and people who have any sense are watching how they spend their money.
Yeah.
I hope they are. We still have people in line. One of the churches that we delivered papers to last week, I noticed a sign. They weren't able to do a Thursday distribution because they didn't get food from the food bank, and they won't get food till the end of the month. And so people are still trying to make ends meet.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to just get serious about this and look at how we're spending our money and what we're doing with it. Probably every liquor store and every sale of soft drinks ought to be curtailed. I know people work in McDonald's and fast food places, but we need to take some corrective steps while we can before we find ourselves in an even more desperate situation. And so we really would like to hear from some of you if you have thoughts on what we're talking about. The open mic approach here, 858-251-6111. And Dr. Thompson is handling the phones, and he can get you in if you have something to say.
We have a caller. Caller, what's your question?
Hi, just have a question, Dr. Warren. You mentioned people need to be paying attention to what's going on here in the States, and I'm just wondering what your take is on how much of a distraction by design these wars might be. I don't know if it necessarily applies to Israel, but what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I can tell you that America, there was a time that when there was a war, America collectively came together and America was concerned. We know from Afghanistan, we know from Iraq, we know that so many people, if you're not a family member of someone who's been deployed, they don't really pay attention to it because they're not affected. You know, San Diego's a naval base. There used to be a time that when an aircraft carrier left San Diego, Coronado, and the people were lined up on the deck, there were people all along the land route, all the way up to Point Loma,
Yeah.
waving to them. Or when the ships came back, it's only people there and they're the families. And
Yeah.
so we've just become numb, and because we're no longer affected directly, and we've gotten spoiled.
Well, I think number one is that we used to be not only a military town, but we used to be a military manufacturing town.
Yes.
Along with, we had General Dynamics and we had Rohr and we had Teledyne Ryan, and all of those companies have gone away with the downsizing of the military or the moving to different locations. And so I think that the focus of our city has gone into tech and some other things. I think, though, Dr. Warren, that this is a sign that we as Americans need to be very vigilant about our borders, very vigilant about our communities, because we will say that this is happening in Israel, this is happening in Ukraine, but again, like you said, we can be victim to this again. And people can come and crash our borders because they're literally crashing our borders now, and we're still not having any control of our borders. And we have people that are, amassing in so much great, so many people that they could literally get together and just start pushing and push over fences and things of that nature. And so I think that we have to be very mindful that we cannot get comfortable and we cannot think that we're elitist or that we're prone or immune from our country being attacked on our soil.
Well, but we have some conflicting attitudes in our country, Dr. Thompson. It's a problem. Right now, at least last week, the mayor of New York City was in South America because New York City has been flooded with over 100,000 immigrants that have been dropped off there.
Yeah.
They're being dropped off here at the border. We have been collecting items as a collection point at the Voice and Viewpoint we sent a couple of truckloads over to the Haitians. I understand that Catholic Charities is working with them, but a lot of the people, they have money and resources, and I understand from volunteers that people helping them in some instances are helping them book flights and get little cash cards so they can move on to the next point. But what's significant is now the president wants to build 17 miles more of fence on the border. We keep playing footsie about putting troops on the border. The Constantine that was put up in Texas, which is that barbed wire that stretches, people got hung up in that, and the Border Patrol had to cut the wire to get the people out just as an act of humanity in terms of not having them die, and then the court ruled that the wire couldn't be there. So the bottom line is America has become dysfunctional because of a right-wing conservative element, mainly manifested in the Republican Party, who has decided that what they want is more important than national security. They see everybody coming here as a threat to the white American idea, and that day is gone. America will no longer be white. It's exactly what the Statue of Liberty says. We have sent to us our tired, our weary, those longing to breathe and be free. They are now here. And at the same time, I'm concerned that African Americans in particular, since we are black, that we not be pushed off the chart in terms of the services and participation that we have by birthright and tax-paying participation. And some of it we are contributing to by virtue of the fact that we won't vote.
Yeah. And, Dr. Warren, I always want to say that we as African Americans cannot make excuses of why we're where we're at or why certain things are happening. In my opinion, I really don't care how many people come over here because of the fact, and I'm going to say this, because of the fact that the jobs that they are doing or they're accepting, most of us won't even look at second, we'll never look at doing those type of jobs. And we'll either feel like it's beneath us or we don't want to do it. We will rather be poor or hungry or on assistance than actually do the work. And so I still think that we need to go back to the days when you were talking about where they had a Macadello program.
Well, the program that I mentioned going back to 1964, 65 it was called the Bracero program.
Okay, yeah.
And the Bracero program brought people here as migrants to work the fields and the crops, and at the end of the season, they went back home. And they were doing that even before then, especially down in Florida.
Yeah.
They were coming over from the Bahamas. They were working and they were going back home.
Yeah.
And so even this year, I mentioned on a program a few weeks ago that we had at least about 160 male migrants come through the border here at San Ysidro. They had buses waiting for them. They all had contracts. Mm-hmm. They were working from then and I think till October when they go back home. So there are people who are coming here to work, but we have let this thing get so out of control that people are just flooding, and we can't continue to have this. And I'm at the point now where I'm not blaming the Republicans as much as I'm blaming the American people who have the capacity to vote and won't speak up, and they won't do anything.
Well, I'm gonna say this, Dr. Warren. When you get in office, when you're a part of this America, you can tell me the problem, but then tell me the solutions. Let's get past the problems and deal with solution. Like we talked about it, the program where they can come over here and work and go back home. I truly believe that some people would rather take their money and go back home and have it worth 5 times the amount of money in their home than it is here. And so we have to start looking at solutions. It's not about bringing everybody over here and then putting everybody on assistance and doing this and doing that. It's about how do we still do the things that we need to do, get those people that want to work certain jobs, but then not have the responsibility that they want to stay here. I believe people come here and fight to stay here because they know they can't go back and forth.
Well, it's a two-pronged, maybe multi-pronged problem, Dr. Thompson, because first of all, we are a humane people, and people that are being let in the border with the collapse of Title 42, dumped on our streets, they don't know where they are. They don't have food, shelter, bathroom, clothes, shoes, nothing. And those of us who are humane, we're going to find a way to help them. We wouldn't let an animal lay out there and suffer like that. But it comes down to the people who've been put in office, like the crazy folks down in Florida, wanting the government to collapse, not understanding what that meant. And Florida is being hit hard because jobs are leaving Florida, developers, builders, Disney has been cut off, and it's just crazy stuff that's happening in this country. And there are too many people sitting back letting it happen. Now they want to pick on Biden in terms of his age. I'd rather have an older person. We had a president was in a wheelchair once, all right? And so this president that was in the wheelchair, he still governed. Yeah. He still had the country work.
Yeah.
And so we can't engage in this insanity that we're engaging in, but we're doing it every day, and we're letting it happen. And so I'm saying, here's where we start. You say a solution. As of this week, for Supervisorial District 4, over 700,000 people will have an opportunity as residents, most of them, to vote. The ballots are mailed out. The polls are open and the drop boxes and everything. Show up and vote. If you show up and vote now in this election and in the special election that's going to follow, perhaps, then you would have sent a message to all of California that when we have a March primary, the black vote might be small, but it is still a determining factor. It's not how big we are. Mm-hmm. Every election can be won by one vote.
Yeah.
And so we got to understand, again, we have to get beyond self. And we're still here on cruise control.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, Dr. Warren, as a person, I ran in school ASB elections, and I went to a school that was majority white. And they said that no one could win an election busting into the school because we were the minorities, we were the underdogs, and there was no way that we could win. But there was a secret that God showed me, and He says simply this: don't go for the popular vote, don't go for the white vote. Go for everybody that is underrepresented, and you will win every time. And that's how we won. Every single year, they kept on saying, how is he winning? This kid that don't even belong in this community, how is he winning? Because I went after the nerds, the geeks, everybody that nobody wanted to talk to. We were talking and we were connecting. And this is the thing that people don't understand. When you begin to work together, you can bring a change about the system. But here's the scary point. The scary point is that Donald Trump has a God complex, and he's convincing people that if you put me back in office, let everything fall apart. And when I come in office, I'm going to make everything great again. That is a God complex that is the most destructive attitude that we can ever see in a leader.
Oh, but he's gone further than that, see. Understand, and he keeps exposing himself with it. He's talked about who he wants executed. He's talked about what positions he want to cancel. And this is music to the ears of that minority of white radicals armed to the tilt, just like the people who came January 6th. They got their AK-47s. They know they can't win if we have a total breakdown. But their goal will be to take to the streets and kill as many people of color, just like Hamas is doing, as they can before they are taken out, because they have a death complex in terms of it. And so we can't, we've become a godless nation. That's a part of the problem here. And nobody wants to talk about God. But as long as we were a God-fearing nation, God was in what we did, and we worked and we planned, and we prospered. Now we're in collapse and chaos that can only get worse based on all of the factors that are on the table.
Yeah.
And yet what? Our churches have reached a point where, as someone told me earlier today, said Sunday church is just about over. I mean, the numbers, if you're not a mega church, it's fewer than 50 people showing up in person.
Yeah.
And some won't even bother with the Zoom anymore.
Yeah.
And so the only time, let us have an earthquake and we can open the doors of our church and everybody's going to come rushing in.
Yeah.
Because that's what people do. So
Yeah.
these are real issues, Dr. Thompson. I know we got other things on there, the agenda. One of the things that we can do is we can engage in 2 Chronicles 7:14, which tells us, if God says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, change from their ways and seek my face, then will he hear from heaven. And we have to return to believing in prayer and engaging in prayer in spite of those around us who don't think that it's necessary. And if we do that, I think there's hope for us. And I know we got some more things on here.
I want to tie it all in. We started off internationally, what was going on in Israel and the Gaza Strip. Then we started talking about border security. And also, we really got to get to the Speaker of the House.
Okay.
Because Dr. Warren, the Republicans that are so wonderful and they got everything in order has shut down the House at a very critical time, and they're not governing, and they cannot move anything because the House is closed. The House is closed, locked up, lights out, because you had a little crazy man from Florida said, we don't like him no more. And then because he was so arrogant to go on TV and basically blame everything on the Democrats, they said, oh, well, since you done did that.
Well, let me say this, because one observer commenting on this evening is making the statement that people don't know how to vote or need role models of what to do. Let me just tell you that, I come from a background of education at the congressional level, at the state level, at all levels in terms of this country. And as a past director of the National School Boards Association with almost 100,000 members from all the country, I can tell you that one observation I've made is that civics are no longer taught in our schools. And if civics are taught, it's so watered down that when you do an interview, most people don't know the capital of the state that they live in. They don't know the difference between a senator, a congressman. We got people right here that don't know the difference between a board of supervisors, city council. They have no idea. And when we were going to school, we had geography, and we had to be able to draw a map of the entire United States with every state in place and insert the capital of each state where it belonged. They can't do that anymore. We got people that don't know the difference between Washington, D.C. and Washington State. And so we have an education problem here, but we know historically that people will not yield to education unless they are in a crisis and understand that the education is part of the solution.
Yes.
So when we were fighting segregation, we saw education as our way out, as our foreparents saw it for us. But now that we have choices, we don't want to go to school. We got dropouts. We don't want to read. We social media and the problems been compounded by they're not even teaching kids how to write anymore, cursor. I mean, they think that the language you use for texting is standard grammar.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it. It's about being well-rounded all the way around. One of the things is that, no, they don't teach cursive writing anymore, but the young people that someone takes the time to show them cursive writing, they feel like they have an upper hand on
Yes.
those young people that don't know how to do cursive
Yes.
writing because of the fact that it's a skill set that, just like calligraphy, it's a skill set that if other people don't have it, you do, and it makes a big difference. The thing about it is sometimes that I'm all for STEM and STEAM and everything else of that nature, but when you only focus on the science and technology and engineering and math, you miss out on some key things that are going to make people successful in life. Everybody, and I have to say this because everybody raise your hand. I know if you're at home, I want you to raise your hand. How many times did Google Maps take you down the wrong street? How many times did you put something in and you forgot to say it's in California and not in Arizona, and before you know it, you're on a highway and not knowing where you're going because, again, the maps don't always know exactly what you're asking for.
Well,
so
yeah,
we have to stop leaning on crutches. Like people say, the Bible's on the phone, that's good. But it's something about turning in pages and being able to read and mark it up.
Well, I don't allow people in my Bible studies to use any electronic devices. I mean, you got to have an old-fashioned paper Bible and a pencil and pad. And if you don't want to do that, maybe you should just stay home and go someplace else. Because people are so busy looking down, relying on Google and Wave, they don't even know what streets to go down. They don't know any landmarks. They're not paying any attention to what's going on. I have a relative that recently got out of prison after 20-some years of being wrongfully detained. And one of the first observations he made in a bus station on the way home was that the people in the bus station all look like zombies because everybody is walking around looking at their cell phone. People cross the street getting hit by cars looking at their cell phone. People won't even look up. If you get on the elevator with folks, rather than look at you, they pull up their phone and they start looking at their cell phone. So we become a disassociated society, which makes it even harder. And we're sowing all the seeds for total collapse. And this is a very sad state. But we got some things happening too, Dr. Thompson. We're getting ready to have Biscuit Grits and Politics Part 2.
But before we do that, because that's going to be the big, we get ready to really, but can we just do a quick hit on the strikes?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So, the question came up, Kaiser, they're going to strike again. Kaiser has indicated that they will work with the employees to overcome some of the changes, and the changes they want make a lot of sense. They need more staff to work with patients. People are not getting the quality care that they should be given. And so they've done their strikes in like 3-day increments. The strikes this time are orchestrated in such a way that, of course, lives are at stake. And so Kaiser will continue to do this. What most people don't know is that 50 years ago, Kaiser was a role model and introduced the whole concept of HMO, and people begin to gravitate it. Now, to me, today, if you're in an HMO, you're in a death trap. You can't get service outside of the whole scenario. You can't get the quality service you need inside it. And we have some past leaders in San Diego. There's so many of them died at Kaiser until I was publishing at one point about 20 years ago that if you were a loved one and you want to get rid of them, put them in Kaiser, and they'll take care of it for you. Of course, Kaiser didn't like it, but I didn't care. I told them I wasn't killing people. I was just reporting the people that they kill. And so that's the issue. Now we have the actors, car makers in increments, and that's expanded. And the car makers are rightfully, when you look at through the pandemic, the shareholders of the major auto companies have made billions of dollars in profits and don't want to share any of it with the people who made the sacrifice to keep working through the pandemic and putting their lives and everything at risk. So everybody is there, and this is the first time we ever had a president to come out and support the strike, and that's what should be. But I'm concerned about the latest indicator of a strike coming. It's not a strike yet, but it's a crisis. We have gotten word, I think even today, of a potential $24.6 billion merger between Kroger's Food, I believe, Kroger's and Albertsons. And Albertson owns Ralph's and Food for Less. And these two entities control probably 99% of all of the food distribution in the country. And if this merger that they're looking at doing here in California takes place, then they could displace about 5,700 workers. And the matter is pending before the Federal Trade Commission, and the governor just vetoed a bill that would have made bailout packages available in a means of trying to slow this whole thing down and stop it. And so this is the latest in the strike mania that's taking place. And people are striking because those who suffered and sacrificed during the pandemic saw others get rich and make money, and people are trying to survive and recover, and so we don't hold that against them.
Well, Dr. Warren, I think one of the things that, when you brought up Kroger's and Albertsons, people got to realize that they're operating as if it's already happened. They already have a website up, and it says Kroger's Albertsons. They want you to know why they need you to support the merger.
Oh,
They
yeah.
have a whole package, the benefits of the merger. They're pushing it because, again, if you can control the food supply, you can control the areas.
Well, Dr. Thompson, those of us who are students of biblical prophecy knows that as we move toward the end time, if you read Revelations, by the time the Antichrist is in charge following the rapture, and I know some people don't want to hear this, you can't buy or sell without the mark of the beast. And that means then that by that time, everything on earth would have been consolidated. So that's why you see mergers, banks merging, insurance companies merging, communication mergers, and the food merger. And what's happening? Land is being consumed by giant agricultural entities so that they can produce more. And at the end of the day, they're going to control. I mean, we got people saying, well, I go to Albertson and I don't like to go to Vons. Well, Albertson and Vons are owned by the same people.
Yeah.
Well, I don't like to go to Ralph's. I go to Food for Less. Well, Food for Less is owned by the same people. Well, the same people that own Vons and Ralph's, Kroger's over there. And then you have this third entity that's very prominent in the South, Piggly Wiggly, that's C&S chain, which I've dealt with them with my East Coast papers over the years. They're going to be forced to take so many stores in this, but that doesn't mean that this is going to work to the benefit of us.
Well, I just got to ask a question. If Albertson owns Vons, who owns the delis at Albertson? Because they could cook some good chicken, but I tell you, Vons is far cry behind.
Well, each of them has set their little thing up, because there are items that you can find at Vons that cost you twice as much as Albertson.
Yeah.
But then the way it is, it depends on the geography of where you shop. Because if you shop at Food for Less on University or Broadway in Lemon Grove, or even at the Food for Less on Euclid, and then go to the Food for Less in Mission Valley, you're going to find like, whoa, am I still in the Food for Less? And one of the things I tell people that gives you an idea of how biased the stocking of the stores is when you go in the store, look for where the wine selection is located. And if the wine selection is up front, then okay, they already catering to a higher clientele. If the liquor selection is in the back, locked in the case with the caps on it, you're getting what's left over. And so this is a real situation here. Prices are going to continue to go up, and people can't afford it. And we just have some real problems with this. And I'm so sorry. So we hit the strikes. I don't want to. Well, maybe we should just mention the borders and then just come back to biscuit and grits.
We did the borders because we talked about securing the borders and everything like that. Unless you want to jump more into it, and then we can do biscuits and grits. So it's your call.
Okay, well, we touched on the Speaker of the House that can't function. U.S. security is a factor right now because even though we have National Guard troops pulled up on the border, they're still not armed. They're still not being allowed to do the kind of securing that needs to take place. And at the same time, we got the cartels bringing people through the Bering Straits into the country, and they're armed. And so we've got crazies going on, and we don't have enough people in all of these areas. So we just got to pay real close attention. We just put some money up. They say it was a leftover $3 million from the pandemic that the county made available trying to help migrants in terms of these emergency services, but that's going to run out soon.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we still have homelessness here intensifying.
Yeah.
With all the money we throwing at homelessness, is getting worse. And the reason it's getting worse is because the cause is not being dealt with. The cause are the greedy landlords who are raising rents to the extent that they're taking people's paychecks, they're icing people out. And right now we're doing a study on all of the building permits for apartments and condos that are sitting empty here. And there are enough empty vacancies here right now to house everybody that's homeless. And let us not forget we have other changes because we just had UCSD Health purchase Alvarado Hospital from Prime Ready, which owned both Alvarado and Paradise Valley. And it's really a positive step for the hospital because Prime Ready has always been just one of these people who gobbled up hospitals and really didn't care about people. And he's just been a horrible person to deal with anyhow. And so that's why you have Paradise Valley sitting down there completely remodeled but 90% empty because people call it Death Valley and nobody wants to go. Alvarado's been remodeled, but the emergency services there are still the pits, just like they were before it was remodeled. And so we need to just pay attention to all of these things that are going on instead of just floating along there. Life is great in Meadowbrook Park, and we're not dealing with what's happening.
Yeah. And I think that's very important that we have to, in this season, the key thing is stay vigilant, stay aware, and don't stress over it, but be very vigilant in how you go about it. Build your knowledge base, understanding that, money might be good at this point, but, it's okay to have gardens again. It's okay to make your own bread. It's okay to do certain things to be more self-sufficient because at the end of the day, there's going to come a time where with the things that we were always fast food in, the fast foods aren't going to be available.
No.
And you're going to need to be able to know how to survive when times get really rough.
And that can happen very quickly. All we need is an earthquake or another series of atmospheric rivers passing through and the flooding. We saw last year when the snows hit up north in terms of the atmospheric rivers, there were people that were so snowbound that the cattle that they had out in the pastures, they had to drop food by helicopter to feed them to keep from losing the crops. And so we just have to pay attention and stop living according to the commercials that we see and just being so focused on self-gratification that we don't seem to be capable of deferring gratification with a view toward the bigger picture. And I think that's a major issue.
All right. Now let's get to one of our big topics that we're excited about coming up on October 17th. Dr. John Warren, Dr. John Warren's Biscuits, Grits, and Politics. I just wanted to ask a question. since it's your biscuits, grits, and politics, is it your biscuit recipe too?
No, they don't. They're not using my biscuit recipe yet.
Okay,
But if
okay.
they don't do better, they will be, because I got a recipe. You know, I spent a lot of time with my grandmother in the kitchen, and I know how to cook a lot of things. And biscuits is one of the things. I also know how to make homemade rolls too.
All right.
How to make the yeast rise and get the rolls just right, and they taste better than those Hawaiian rolls that they put
Well,
out
see,
there.
See, I'm just gonna say, like, I'm gonna be from the show me state, Dr. Warren. I ain't had none of your biscuits or any of your rolls, but
Yeah, yeah.
as soon as I get to taste it, I could
Yeah, you
testify,
gotta testify.
of the goodness.
Yeah,
Now,
I understand.
I know that the greens is second to none, but
Yeah.
I got to see about the rest of it.
Well, you'll have something to look forward to, because it won't happen no time soon. Too many other things. But the concept of the biscuit, grits, and politics is people, when they're well fed and it's what they like, they're hospitable, they're social, and so we've set this up so that the catfish nuggets are, we were making sure they're the right size this time in terms of fillets. So we got catfish and hot grits, butter or cheese if you want to add it, soft scrambled eggs because nobody wants hard eggs, turkey sausage links if you don't want the grits, and bacon, and then the biscuits, and then they got some fruit platters for people. We got 2 serving stations this time, so people won't have to spend all their time standing in line. Ample staff. Food is hot. Coffee, juice, and tea. 1 location for that. Start serving food at 6:45, so that at 7 o'clock, if you're there early, open seating, you can sit where you want to, other than the few designated areas for the participants. And we're not going to start the program till like 7:25, so there's time to network after. You can eat, then you can talk. And you don't have to let your food get cold trying to do both. There will be no ticket sales at the door. There will be no ticket sales at the door. There will be no ticket sales at the door. It's like the last poets used to say when they said the revolution will not be televised. Well, the ticket sales won't be at the door. It will be streamed after the 100. But if you think you're just going to sit back and catch it and skip, it's only $20.
Yeah,
You
and
can't go nowhere for $20.
Yeah, and I don't think that the price is the issue, because the meal in itself is extraordinary. I think more so, and this is one of the bigger problems, is that a lot of times people don't want to get up that early, and the reality is that the reason why we selected the time and energy is because it allows you to go do your business, network, and then get to work. Now I'm gonna tell you, when I was young in the industry, some of the biggest, most powerful events took place between 6 and 8 o'clock in the morning.
And still do,
Yeah.
Brother Thompson, because now that they're returning to the Jackie Robinson breakfast that they have in January during that time of celebrating Dr. King's holiday, before the pandemic, they were getting 1,600 people at the hotels in Mission Valley. Most of them were there by 6:30 to eat and to be there for the program. Now, this year, the program is going to be at the convention center. And so if people can get up for that, you can get up for this in terms of it being right here in the community at the Jacob Center. You get there early enough. Parking is not a problem. And you can get in there. Now, the theme this month's meeting is the politics of hate. We're doing this each month. We're having one of these. And this month is the politics of hate. And we're doing it in conjunction with the California State Library Stop the Hate program that we are a participant in. But we're not just going to just have the DA there to talk about some of the hate crime events and scenarios, but we're going to have people from our various ethnic communities that are going to be there. Some from our African communities, Asian communities, African American or Black communities. And these people, many of whom are the victims of hate, these people are going to not only talk about shared experience in the panel we have, but they're going to also help us come up with solutions in terms of what do we do. So the theme, sub-theme, stop the hate, spread the love, and we got to move in the direction. And we have 2 major events that's helping push this. The recent indictment of the 17 Hells Angels that beat up the 3 black men and tried to kill them. The alert that we have throughout the country right now in Jewish communities afraid of guerrilla extensions of what's taking place with Israel and Hamas. And so it's a timely gathering, and it's for us as a people of color to be involved.
Again, Biscuits, Grits, and Politics is an educational forum. It is a forum for you to get questions answered and also for us to look at how we bring about solutions. It is a time for you to network and also be a part of the decision makers that are dealing with solutions. Again, we're going to ask that you will come with your questions, and be bodacious. If you feel like you can't get to the breakfast for whatever reason, work schedule, whatever, send them to us. Send your questions in advance so that we can have those questions and we can have somebody ask those questions. But here's again, we don't want the story, we want the question. Example. Dr. Warren, my question is, 10 years ago, I was driving down the street, and it was on Euclid. And when I was driving down on Euclid, remember that time where they used to have the church's chicken? No, that is not a question. That is a story. We want you to ask your question. Question is like this, Dr. Warren, how can we stop unwarranted stops and harassment from undercover police or whatever?
Yeah,
That's a question.
And we have solutions in terms of it, okay? Yeah. So these are valid questions, and we're not going to have people making speeches, but one of the things we're doing this time is, even though we have to stop the meeting technically at 9 o'clock because we're doing TV broadcast preparations with it, we're going to maintain the facility for at least another hour if there's any unanswered question or discussion. Yeah. And we're going to be able to do it in a quiet, orderly fashion because those who have to leave are going to be escorted outside the lobby so that we still can function within the room itself. And so as one caller is reminding me to let us know, this is in the heart of the community. This is not like you got to go to Mission Valley, pay parking at some big hotel, and then walk and go. It's right there. We know where Jacobs is. It's right there in the heart. You can and that's why we stay in the community so people can get there. And I think we got good people that we're working with. So we want to make this work, and we want you to come and enjoy it. Now, Thursday, Friday, and Monday, those are the remaining 3 days that you could come to the office if you want to pay in person because you're not computer savvy wanting to use Eventbrite. You can do that. We need names at this point so that we are checking people in. So it's not just showing up with 3 or 4 people and saying, hi, we brought a table, we here. No, that won't work. We got people checking this thing off, and if you do what's right, and you know what, I appreciate the flattery, but don't come in there saying I'm a friend of John Warren and he's known me forever. No. If I didn't have a badge, they probably wouldn't let me in. So we got to make it right.
You already know it. As long as you've been working in this community, everybody's your friend.
Yeah, when they need you.
It changes based on what they need. Here's the thing that we definitely don't want you to do. The breakfast, the doors open at 6:45. Just because you get there at 7:45 doesn't mean that there's going to not be people at the door still checking you in. So don't think that if you come late that it's
you can just slip on in.
It's a slide in, and I don't want to eat. I just want to come for the forum. No, everybody that comes to the door, you are making an investment for the information that you receive. Now, I want to be very clear with everybody. Every time that we do this event, we are literally spending about $7,500 as an investment to our community to make sure that we are aware, we are focused, and that we are engaging. So if you do 100 times 20, that's simply $2,000. So you're really not paying for the production of the event. You're really not paying for the food. What you are paying is to be in the house, to engage, and more is being sown into you than actually you're giving out.
And we're paying the difference.
Yeah.
We don't have any big sponsors, right, underwriting everything, and we're getting a profit. We're doing it because we have faith in this, and we've done it before, and we're not trying to replace Catfish Club. We're trying to be current in terms of what the community needs at this point. That's what it's all about.
And I want to say this to everybody. Lay the beef aside. We have turkey sausage, we have bacon, and we have catfish. Lay the beefs aside because, again, for us to move forward as a community, we have to be able to agree to disagree. And we might not like each other on this topic, but we can love each other on another topic. But if our whole overall focus is making sure that we have a community and a growth for the next generation to come into and grow, we will lay the beefs aside and we'll come in and be a part of this unified together. Dr. Warren.
Well, I was just reminded by one of our staff members. You know, last time we had someone, a couple of people who were very hostile and nasty to our staff, and that is just not acceptable. If you having one of them kind of mornings, then maybe you just need to go outside and keep going. We're not going to do that.
Well, Dr. Warren, do we need to put some prayer warriors out there so when they get there, oh, you need prayer. Come over we got a prayer closet for you.
Yeah, right outside. Yeah, but we're not going to have the staff harassed because they're following instructions in terms of what we're doing. And there's no reason for that kind of rudeness. You know, and $20 does not give you the right to override everything that's going on. So if you don't understand why we're doing it and the benefit of it, then maybe you shouldn't be there in the first place.
Yeah, you know, and the funny thing, Dr. Warren, here's the thing, and I always say this, you know, being in education for so long, sometimes parents would come in and they would just go off on everybody, and I said, I after so many months of seeing it done, I asked the parent, why do you do it this way? And she said, well, it's worked for me all this time. And so I said, well, today we're gonna change the formula. Every time you do it, it's not gonna work. So I'm gonna need you to try something different. And the thing about it, even with our staffs and the people that are working the front gate, the days of intimidation and bullying and everything doesn't work anymore. You know, you're gonna get that blank stare like deer in headlights, like, you know, oh, and you might even get that good counseling. Are you having a bad day? Do you need a hug? You know what I'm saying? But more than anything else, we're here and we're going to continue to push community love because the theme this time is what?
The theme is the politics of hate, number one. And I also want to mention that we will not leave this without reminding people that there's an election coming up in a few weeks. And that is something that will be mentioned in terms of the importance of it.
Yeah.
That this is what we have to get involved, folks. It's too late to just react to what's happening. We need to be proactive so that we can influence the quality of life that we want.
Yeah.
And that's what we're all about, and we're excited to try and do it.
Yes, and so that's that's again, biscuits, grits, and politics. This is not about ego. This is strictly about making sure we're engaged, we are educated, and we're spreading the word and helping one another. And here's the beautiful thing, and I've been telling people, you know, there are so many influencers in the room. Some of y'all just might need to get you a ticket because you're looking for a new employment opportunity.
It's a place to network, and do it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And some folks, I literally saw someone at the last meeting say, you know what, I'm having a situation with that. Before they left Biscuits, Grits, and Politics, they already had the answer. It was resolved because the people in the room made it successfully happen. So this is a space that you want to be.
And we had, what, was it 158 people?
175.
175 people last time. So that's very significant, what we're doing. And we're doing it because of our love and concern for ourselves and what we're doing. It's on a Tuesday, which is normally for the past 15 years, the time during which we've had the Black Men and Women United.
Yeah.
And so we've selected that day and brought people to this juncture, and we're excited about this, and we want you to be a part of it. Let us know what you think about it. Also, make recommendations. When we do the question and answers, there will be actual live mics. We're not doing no little hidden cards and you can't speak. We want to hear from you. We want the interaction. We want the dialogue, and that's an important part of it, having us express ourselves, which is a part of the process that we're in.
Amen, amen. Well, with that being said, we're at the end of our show today, Dr. Warren. I want to thank everybody for tuning in from the desk of the editor. God said the same. We will be back here next week and have a recap of Biscuits, Grits, and Politics. Dr. Warren, final statements.
You can still catch the September Biscuits, Grits, and Politics, both on YouTube and on our website. Just put in Biscuit, Grits, and Politics 2023. If you missed it, you can see what we're doing and get excited about what we're about to do. Thank you, and God bless.
God bless.